Hi, my name is Jiles, Parham, and I live in Georgia. I want to share with you today my miracle story. Rick Warren wrote a popular book, The Purpose-Driven Life. The first sentence in that book is, "It's not about you." So this today is not about me. It's about giving God the glory and praise for what He's done in my life. I want to give an update from the original story that happened, and from there I'm going to be sharing word for word what happened some years back. It all started with the introduction when I said, I've never felt compelled by God to share more than I do today. And that's what I want to do. September the 8th, 1995, started out as any Monday, Wednesday, and Friday would. I'm up by 5:15. I'm at the YMCA in Albany, Georgia by 5:50. I'm playing basketball, warming up for basketball, and we play from 6 to 7 or sometime after 7. What happened, and then I went up for my last shot right at 7, and I felt like I was going to faint, and that's all I remember. Ed Hudson, who was guarding me, said I leaned up on my elbows and said, "You fouled me." And he said, "I did not." And then he said, "I fell back down on the floor." He thought I was playing, and they all playing hurt, so they all went back down and started playing basketball again. He looked back and saw that I wasn't moving, so I came back to see where I was and noticed I wasn't breathing. By the way, they said I made that last shot. Tim Williams, an anesthesiologist, was playing basketball with us, and he started performing CPR on me. And I don't know what point, but he said he looked up and said somebody needs to call his wife. Stan Crawford, who was a pharmacist who also played with us, he said, "Giles, Tim gave me the eyesight that you probably wouldn't make this. You were red, your eyes were dilated," and another player that was there, Tim Gregory, he also assisted Tim in doing CPR for me. And in the Y was another doctor, a podiatrist, who came in, and the three of them took turns doing CPR on me. The next thing I remember was a lot of hands trying to move me to a stretcher, and I heard somebody saying, "He's coming to," and then comforting words like, "Giles, you're going to be all right." And I remember taking such deep, deep breaths and how good they felt. And then when I realized what was taking place, I started yelling, "No, this can't be happening. Not to me, not now." For you see, when my oldest son was born, 37 years ago now, I told Lynn I wanted to take care of myself so that I could see my children grow up, get married, get on their own, and take care of themselves. And since that time, I've diligently taken care of myself. I went to the Y 3 times a week at 6 o'clock to play basketball. I had a complete physical 5 years before that with an echogram, and a treadmill, and everything was great. When we got to the ambulance, I thanked Tim. He rode with us. I thanked Tim for saving my life. And then I thanked him again when he called Phoebe Putney Hospital saying, "We're en route with a 40-year-old male with a cardiac arrest." And I thanked him. He said, "For what?" I said, "I'm 51. He couldn't believe it. When we got to the hospital, Lynn was already there. And it wasn't long before a doctor came in, Dr. Hoops, who was a cardiologist, and they stabilized me and took me to the CCU. The blood test they took said I did not have a heart attack. I want to share with you what I say is 3 miracles that happened to me that day and following. My first miracle. Everything that day had gone perfect. 5 minutes later, I would have been in the dressing room by myself, because at that time I wasn't a member of the men's health club, and I was just using the boys and men's dressing room. And at 7 o'clock in the morning, there's no boys there, and most time not any men there also. 30 minutes later, I would have been in my office all alone. Even the EMTs. The EMT station was on the corner about 300 yards from the Y. And when they went to get into the ambulance to come to the Y, it wouldn't start. So they had to get everything they needed, and they walked to the Y. And also, one of the EMTs, they had just come back from state competition. Whatever they do, he won first place. So it was a perfect day for me. By the way, they said that my heart started back on the 3rd shock of the paddles. I think it was Saturday when they put me into a regular room. And since I said I did not have a heart attack, they wanted me to go to Emory to have what they called EP studies, electrical physical studies. But before Emory would accept me, I had to have a heart catheterization. Now, I had some anxiety about going through a heart catheterization because I had a dear friend that was a part of my prayer group that met in my office every Tuesday morning at 6:30, and he died going through a cath. In that cath, you're aware of what's going on, and you can see the screen, but you can't interpret it for what you're doing. But whatever they told me was, I just could not believe it. They said my right artery in the right side of my heart was completely blocked, and the artery on the left side was 95% blocked. Completely, I couldn't believe it. Also, the doctor said the cath showed a scar from a previous heart attack. Now, time wouldn't allow me to tell you about that incident. They took me to Emory on Tuesday morning, and Lynn followed us in her car. And Lynn's never driven so fast. When we were going into Cordell, we were meeting a sheriff, and he turned around to catch Lynn, and the EMTs radioed to him, said, "She's with us." So he stopped and didn't give her a ticket. Surgery was scheduled for Wednesday, and after waiting all day with friends and family, surgery was postponed until Thursday morning. They performed 5 bypasses. The doctor, Marsh Brown, reported that there was no damage to my heart, but that I had a perfect heart for a 51-year-old. My second miracle. They said that I had a heart attack sometime in the past because the scars showed up on the cath. And I was out on the floor more than 10 minutes for the guys doing CPR on me, but yet they said there was no damage to my heart. I was going home with a broken sternum and a cut leg. By the way, Tim and Greg and Ken said that was the first time they performed CPR on a real person. While at Emory, a nurse said to me, "You were spared for a purpose." I agreed, and I shared with her that my wife and Lynn, we were in a motorcycle accident 15 years earlier, and we were spared then, but I wasn't sure why. And the nurse looked over into the window, and Lynn had brought pictures of my children, and she said, "For those beautiful children." And I could not agree more. Now my third miracle. When I was on the gym floor, I experienced 2 things. The first thing I didn't really share with too many people because I didn't know much about it until I heard more people share their experience. I don't know what you want to call it. You can call it an out-of-body experience, I'm not sure. But I remember seeing myself on the floor. I couldn't see all of me, but I could see my left arm and hand, and it looked like an x-ray, where you see your bone and then you see through the flesh. Well, I could see my body trying to move up out of my body, yet my body was still on the floor. And it would move 2 or 3 times. It would move up, and then it would go back down to where I was just 1. And it looked like, you couldn't tell, but it looked like it was moving up 2 or 3 inches, and then it would just go down to be 1. And as I said, this happened several times. And I really can't explain what it was, other unless I was going in and out of death as the guys were performing CPR on me. The second thing that happened, I had heard about and read about, and maybe you have too, but I had what we call a light experience. You've heard that people say that when they come back to life again, they had a tunnel experience and saw a light at the end of the tunnel. Well, I didn't have a tunnel experience, but I saw a light. Let me describe what it was. Picture with me a very dark sky. And then all of a sudden in the top right corner, a band of light or a ribbon of light started eating away from that darkness and replacing the darkness with the light. And after that one was finished, another band of light would come in and start eating away from the light. And that would happen 3 or 4 times. And then I heard somebody say, "He's coming too." And that's all I remember. I came home on Thursday, 7 days after surgery, and I was at church the following Sunday, but not in the choir. But the second Sunday, I was back in church, and I was in the choir. And I had a very difficult time getting through that service, as everything took on a new meaning to me. We sang a song, "When We All Get to Heaven." And when we got to the words, "Just a glimpse of His glory," I almost lost it, because I felt God had allowed me to see just a glimpse of His glory. And then we read a prayer on page 466 in the Methodist hymnal. Now, I had been in Avalon for 15 years, and we had never read a prayer out of that hymn book. The first 3 lines spoke directly to me. The first line said, "Come my light and illumine my darkness." And for me to know what I had experienced, it was so real. Come my light and illumine my darkness. And the second line said, "Come my life and revive me from death." And I felt that Tim and Kirby and Ken had revived me from death, and the deepness of those first breaths and how good they felt. Come my life and revive me from death. And the third line says, "Come my physician and heal my wounds." And I felt God, through the doctors, had cleared my clogged arteries, and as the doctor said, there was no damage to your heart. Come my life and revive me from death. And then come my life and heal my wounds. The nurse said God had spared me for a reason. And as Paul Harvey says, now for the rest of the story. On September the 8th, 2019, there will be 24 years since this experience. God has answered my prayer. My 3 children are grown, married, and Lynn and I have 8 grandchildren and 2 on the way. And I still go to the Y on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning to play basketball, though now I get up at 4:30, and I travel 30 miles to go to Norcross to the Y there to play. On Monday, the 23rd, 2013, I was leaving the Y, and I didn't really feel comfortable. I felt a discomfort in my chest. And Lynn and I already talked about when I got home, we'd go finish our Christmas shopping. But when we got home, I told her, I said, "You need to take me to the emergency room." And she did. And we went to the emergency room, and then they took me to Emory Midtown, and they performed another cath. And while they were doing the cath, they put in 1 stent in my heart, and they said I needed another one, but it was a clogged artery, blood clot, and they needed to dissolve the clot. So the Thursday after Christmas, on the 26th, they did another stent. And yes, I ruined our Christmas because I was in the hospital. After all that has happened to me and God's goodness, some days I grieve because I still fail God. I miss the mark. Daily, many times I pray the prayer, "Lord Jesus, Son of God, have mercy on me, a sinner." This day I give God glory and praise, for He has worked in my life and allowed me to experience these miracles so that I know the best is yet to come.